Good day everyone, my name is Karen Joy from Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Pasig, and I'm going to discuss about the chapter 13, which is the strategic decision making in oligopoly markets, and chapter 14 for advanced pricing techniques. So first, for the chapter 13, discuss fully what an oligopoly is. Cite an example. So oligopoly is a market structure with a small number of firms, none of which can keep the others from having significant influence. The concentration ratio measures the market share of the large firms. Examples of oligopoly abound and include the auto industry, cable television, and commercial air travel. Number two is explain fully the following characterization of an oligopoly. Um, 2.1 is few sellers. There are just several sellers who control all or most of the sales in the industry. Either a homogeneous or differentiated product. If the firms produce a homogeneous product, like the cement or steel, the industry is called a pure or perfect oligopoly. If the firms produce a differentiated product, like automobiles, the industry is called differentiated or imperfect oligopoly. Difficult market entry. It is difficult to enter an oligopoly industry and compete as a small startup company. Oligopoly firms are large and benefit from economies of scale. It takes considerable know-how and capital to compete in this industry. Number three, explain fully the non-price competition feature of oligopoly. What strategies do firms operating in oligo- oligopo- oligopolistic market use to increase market share? So non-price competition typically involves promotional expenditures such as advertising, selling stuff, the location's convenience, sales promotions, coupons, special orders, or free gifts. Marketing research, new product development, and brand management costs. Firms will engage in a non-price competition in spite of the additional cost involved because it is usually more profitable than selling for a lower price and avoids the risk of a price war. For example, brand name goods often sell more units than do their generic counterparts, despite usually being more expensive. Non-price competition may also promote innovation as firms try to distinguish their product. Number four, do you think it is possible in the market that is dominated by few large firms to engage in price fixing agreements or cartel? Support your answer. Yes, cartels are created when a few large producers decide to cooperate with respect to aspects of the market. Once formed, cartels can fix prices for members so that competition on price is avoided. Setting rules is especially important in oligopolistic markets as predicted in the game theory. A significant attraction of cartels to producers is that they set rules that members follow, thus reducing risks that would exist without the cartel. Number 5. What is collusion in the context of an oligopolistic market? It is a secret agreement for an illegal purpose, conspiracy. Collusive arrangements are generally illegal. Moreover, it is difficult for firms to coordinate actions, and there is a threat that firms may defect and undermine the others in the arrangement. Chapter 14, Advanced Pricing Techniques. Explain fully the following pricing techniques discussed in our textbook. Cite an example to illustrate said techniques. First is the cost plus pricing. It is called markup pricing. It is the practice by company of determining the cost of the product to the company and then adding a percentage on top of the price to determine the selling price to the customer. And this is the most common that the company uses. For example, suppose that the company sells a product for 50 pesos, and that 50 pesos includes all the costs that go into making and marketing of the product. Then the company may then add a percentage on top of that 50 pesos as the plus part of cost plus pricing. That portion of the price is the company's profit. So the company in the cost plus pricing, when they use cost plus pricing, it depends on the company, uh, how much the markup or the percentage of the markup they will add um, on the cost of their product. Next is declining block pricing. It offers quantity discounts over successive discrete blocks of quantities purchased. For example, an electric company charges 9 cents per kilowatt hour for the first 300 kilowatt hours of electricity used in a month, 5 cents per kilowatt hour for the block 301 to 1000 kilowatt hours, and 4 cents for each kilowatt hour over 1000. Next is the price discrimination. Price discrimination is a selling strategy that charges customers different prices for the same product or service based on what the seller thinks they can get the customer to agree. In pure price discrimination, the seller charges each customer the maximum price they will pay. One example of the price discrimination can be seen in the airline industry. Consumers buying airline tickets several months in advance typically pay less than consumers purchasing at the last minute. When demand for a particular flight is high, airlines raise ticket prices in response. Next is first degree price discrimination. So the first degree discrimination, or what we call perfect price discrimination, occurs when a business charges the maximum possible price for each unit consumed. Because prices vary among units, the firm captures all available consumers surplus for itself, or the economic surplus. For example, a car salesman who tries to assess each consumer's maximum willingness to pay and charges accordingly. Auctions also try to reach each consumer's maximum price. Next is the second degree price discrimination. Second degree price discrimination occurs when a company charges a different price for different quantities consumed, such as quantity discounts on bulk purchases. For example, a phone plan that charges a higher rate after a determined amount of minutes are used, and quantity discounts for consumers that purchase a specified number of more of a certain good. Next is the third degree price discrimination. So it occurs when a company charges a different price to different consumer groups. For example, a theater may divide moviegoers into senior, adults, and children, each paying a different price when seeing the same movie. This discrimination is the most common. Next is the uniform pricing. It is charging the same price for every unit of the product. For example, in the United States, uniform pricing is used in the consumer goods market for many cleaning and food categories. Laundry cleaners, coffee, juice, shortening and oils, baking mixes, cereals, and many others. And the last one is the two-part pricing. It is a form of pricing in which consumers are charged both an entry fee, or the fixed price, and a usage fee, which is the per unit price. Example of this include a phone contract that charges a fixed monthly charge and a per minute charge for use of the phone. Another is amusement parks often charge an admission fee and an additional price per ride. Number two, make a research on the pricing techniques employed by the following businesses. What could be the reasons for pricing their product or service in this way? First is the manufacturer of alcoholic drinks. When analyzing the optimal price, we must take into account customer expectations as well as different pricing strategies to adopt. Different locations where the drink or beverage will be sold have different customers. Pricing for a drink will not be equal in different locations, as the price can be adjusted to the willingness to pay differences of customers at that locations or circumstance. For example, if your beverage is located at a supermarket, you may want to consider lowering the price to compete with the alternative brands. As demand for our services in the industry is high, and consequently we have grown expertise with the many projects we have done. Next is the retailer of consumer appliances. The range of prices for new appliances is very broad and depends on the type of appliance or brand in question. Knowing what features your customers value and what they are willing to pay is required to optimize profits when selling appliances. We must not only take into account perceived value of the appliances but energy efficiency, length and cover of warranty, as well as the amount of power of water need all influence the pricing and willingness to pay of the cost of customers. Next is hospitals. So hospitals, the simplest example of nonlinear pricing is the two-part pricing consisting of that price and usage-based pricing when the usage exceeds a specified threshold. In the cons in the context of healthcare, the usage rate of healthcare service is not a function of price. Rather, it depends on the individual consumer's health condition. Also, the quantity of the service consumed does not affect patients' valuation of the service as they are unaware of their consumption. In fact, the whole set of services is like one product. For example, heart surgery, wherein the patient does not have a choice of opting out from some treatment procedures which are an integral part of the surgery. Neither can the hospital refuse to provide those services in order to save or optimize on cost. Therefore, we argue that nonlinear pricing such as two-part tariff is not appropriate on healthcare services. And lastly, the government services. So most governments charge for publicly produced utility services such as water, electricity, and gas, post or telephone services, bus and rail services. Indeed, governments often establish business enterprises to supply and sell these services. Increasingly, governments also charge for other services such as tertiary education, road use, property information, and waste disposal. Most public pricing literature starts from the premises that government is the sole supplier of service and the prices should be designed to maximize the welfare of consumers and producers that are party to the transaction. So that would be all. Thank you.